It's the right thing to do.
Defense Secretary Robert Gates and Joint Chiefs Chairman Admiral Mike Mullen are set to appear before the Senate Armed Services Committee on Tuesday to address repealing the 15-year-old Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy. Democratic Congressman Joe Sestak from Pennsylvania is a member of the House Armed Services Committee and a retired three-star admiral. He joins us live. Congressman, thanks always for your time.
Thanks, Shannon. Glad to be back.
Okay, so you think it's time to repeal the policy?
Yes, I do, and for two very important reasons. First, we are losing good men and women, cryptologists, people who can speak Persian, and in time of war, we actually need them even more. And second is, take an aircraft carrier. There's about 5,000 youth on there. Their average age of those 5,000 sailors, 19 and a half. This is not an issue for them. It might have been generations ago, but it's not today. And when military leaders are lagging and not leading where their troops are, then you start to lose credibility. We need to move beyond this issue, much as we did for the integration of women into combat positions and African Americans being integrated.
All right, I want to read a statement from someone who doesn't agree with you on this. This comes from Senator John McCain. He says, quote,
Yes.
I believe it would be a mistake to repeal the policy. At a time when our armed forces are fighting and sacrificing on the battlefield, now is not the time to abandon the policy. He and many others feel like this idea has not been fully vetted. Its time hasn't come. How do you respond?
Well, first, I have great respect for John McCain. Prisoner of war, I don't think I could have done what he has done. All that said, I disagree for the two reasons I gave. But also, as you read further into that statement you just read, he used the word that it has been a successful policy. How are we measuring success? By denying people the right to serve our country or forcing them to live a lie? So his criteria for what's a successful policy has merely meant to continue a discriminatory policy. No, in war right now, we have lost thousands of good men and women who we actually need. And so I respectfully disagree with that, because a successful policy is one that lives up to our ideals of equality.
Well, you know, of course, this week, Congressman, the State of the Union address, it was almost more interesting for some of the reactions from those in the House chamber than had to say about certain things. When he announced this policy change that he would push for, we saw the Defense Secretary clapping and seeming to approve this, but we saw the Joint Chiefs of Staff sitting stone-faced and not standing, not clapping. Do we know where the Pentagon stands on this?
We don't. We have heard that they are going to proffer something and offer it within the budget proposal coming across this week, so we're eager to see that. Traditionally, however, military does not clap, although they did, for example, when he spoke about Iran. But if you notice, things that tend to have a political tinge to it, and unfortunately, Don't Ask, Don't Tell has become politicized, they tend not to clap. But I thought it was instructive that Secretary Gates did. All that said, and I went to war with a certain percentage of our carrier battle group who we knew by public surveys were gay, and I felt very strongly that I could not as an individual come home and say they don't deserve equal rights. Much like Harry Truman, as Commander-in-Chief, said we need to integrate African Americans into our service. So this president is doing so, and frankly, I wish we had acted earlier.
Congressman, very quickly, I want to ask you, you are in a race for Arlen Specter's seat there in Pennsylvania. He's reported a very strong last quarter of fundraising. More than $1 million came in the last quarter. Any updates you'd like to give us?
Yes, if you noticed, he also spent more than $1 million. He has less at the end of this quarter than he had from the previous quarter, which is kind of a very dangerous game to be playing since he's plummeted so far down in the polls. 65% of all Pennsylvanians say they don't think he deserves re-election. My challenge is, of course, Shannon, to be realist, is credibility. That's why I've done 25 counties in about 23 days and about 230 events. What this is about is, how could the Democratic establishment actually make another deal, which Washington tends to do, as you saw with Senator Nelson at the end of the health care process, so that the old boys club could just keep one another in power. I disagree. When Pennsylvanians are hurting, we need a new generation of change, one where politics isn't the priority. It's about policies for the working family. That's why, at the end of the day, you'll see that I'll be running against Pat Toomey and then be a U.S. Senator for Pennsylvanians. I'm willing to lose my job in order to make sure they can keep those. And that's what Washington establishment doesn't seem to get about just welcoming a Republican over and saying everything's okay after 2,000 votes for George Bush. No, there's a better principle than that, and that's what you'll see the electorate, I think, will respond to.
Okay. We'll be following the very spirited race. Congressman Joe Sestak, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Shannon. Have a great day.
You as well. And, of course, we would always welcome Senator Specter to reply as well.